Joining us now, Rob Wittman, Congressman, 1st District, Virginia. That's the northern neck up through Fredericksburg and the Stanton area. He's with us now. Congressman Wittman, great to have you, sir.
John, great to be back with you this morning.
18 days before the election. Your opponent, man, I read some of those Twitter. I know you're doing an ad on it, but I read some of those Twitter posts he had. I mean, are you kidding me, Congressman? Are you serious? This guy's running for Congress? What is up with that?
Well, listen, it's a reflection on how he feels about issues that I think are extraordinarily important. When he talks about the increase in military spending that goes to pay our members of the military, gives them a raise, goes to modernizing our military to keep up with our adversaries, the threats from China, the threats from Russia. When he says that those increases are massive and unnecessary, it just tells me he does not support the United States military, doesn't support us having the military capable of deterring China and deterring Russia, and therefore keeping the world safe. I mean, it's just mind-boggling to me how he could look at where we are today with the threats, the growing threats, and somehow believe that the dollars that we spend on the military, and again, giving raises to our men and women in uniform is massive and unnecessary. I think it just speaks to the complete separation from reality that he has on where we are today with the United States military. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
You're going to win this race. I mean, nobody's going to vote for somebody that says we need to not have a military or whatever. I mean, he said some crazy things, not even worth my time on air. But look, you got to get out there. You got to vote. Can't take anything for granted. Got to run like you're behind. Mm-hmm. We get that. Congressman, what's going on now? The talks between Pelosi and the Republicans trying to get a deal done with Mnuchin on COVID-19. Pelosi basically, Trump offered a $1.8 trillion. She wants $2.2 trillion. The other $400 billion, whatever the difference is, going to bail out the states and municipalities with my tax dollars because they mismanage their cities and states. The president doesn't want to do that. She also wants a bailout for her big donors with McMansions, with the SALT tax. Trump doesn't want to do that. But we're only $400 billion apart. Why can't we get a deal?
Well, John, we need to get a deal. I tell you, as I travel across the district and talk to folks, there are businesses out there that are still hurting. There are still places where people are doing everything they can to get back to work, but need just that little bit of help, just need that hand up to be able to help them through this time. And we want to make sure that our economy gets back to where it can be, to get these businesses back on track, to make sure we get folks back working again. Those things are incredibly important. There shouldn't be that big a difference. Listen, there's a bill that could pass today, John. We put forth a discharge petition. A discharge petition essentially is this: if 218 members of Congress say we want the bill to come to the floor, then the Speaker can't stop it. And this is a bill that was put together by 25 Democrats, 25 Republicans, which means if you get 25 Democrats to vote for it and every other Democrat votes against it and all Republicans vote for it, the bill passes. And it's $1.5 trillion, and it focuses on the payroll protection program, which is incredibly important, and it focuses on those businesses that are continuing to lose money. Not businesses that are making their way back, but businesses that continue to lose money. And then making sure, too, that we are helping families that still need the help in order to get back on their feet. I mean, that $1.5 trillion piece of legislation could pass tomorrow if the Speaker would bring it to the floor. Yet the two bills that she's brought to the floor have been those bills that are just full of partisan pieces of legislation, unrelated spending. I mean, one federalizes the election system. One provides benefits to folks that are here illegally. I mean, those things are just antithetical to what needs to be done in order to address the issues that we have before us, and they aren't even serious efforts to legislate. In fact, the last effort was actually a bipartisan bill in opposition because there were 17 Democrats that voted against the bill, not a single Republican that voted for it. So it was actually bipartisan in opposition to what the Speaker proposes. So there's just so many things that need to be done. Unfortunately, this is now 100% political. If you were really focusing on, if the Speaker was really focusing on helping the American people, this would have been done, but that's not what her focus is. Her focus is 100% political. It's about what can I do to try to gain a political advantage with this? And I would suggest that this actually hurts her, and it hurts her majority in the House, because I think folks see it for what it is, and that is, this is no action, and no action hurts the American people. And I think they look at it and go, why won't you get something done? Because if you don't get something done, it's negatively affecting communities and businesses and families. And I think you look at this and have to ask the question, does the Speaker really care about those people that are hurting? And if she did, she would bring a bill to the floor, but it's obvious to me that she doesn't. And even members of her own party, members of her own caucus, want her to bring a bill to the floor, and yet she won't. She was interviewed the other day on CNN and had this ridiculous explanation that somehow, because she was asked a tough question about why wasn't this brought to the floor, especially
right,
when she has her own members that want it to pass, and then she called the questioner a Republican apologist. Now, it's like it wasn't even a serious conversation about what she was trying to do to fix the problem. This was all about politics, which is really regretful when people are hurting, and she knows what needs to be done. It could be done tomorrow, and again, she's unwilling to do it.
Congressman Wittman, let me ask you point blank: is Nancy Pelosi sabotaging the COVID-19 negotiations because she doesn't want to give Trump a victory and therefore let the American people suffer for power?
Well, listen, I think her motives are political. I mean, that's the only thing that I can say about it, because if her motives were to actually help the American people, it would have been done a long time ago. So I believe there are political motives behind it. Now, as to what her political motives are, there are probably many of them. But I just think it's boiled down to all politics now. And I think the American people are sick of it. I know when I talk to folks in my district, they're sick of it. They're saying, why won't the Speaker let a bill come to the floor? Why won't she allow something to get done? Why won't she allow the members in the House, who tomorrow, if she brought the bill that 25 Republicans, 25 Democrats put together, if she brought that to the floor, John, it would pass overwhelmingly. And then you'd have something to go to the Senate with, and I think there's a fair chance that it would pass the Senate.
Do you have enough? You mentioned that 25 Democrats, moderates, that wanted this thing out, aligned with the Republicans on this. Do you have enough to get a discharge, or are Democrats not going to go against their leader, Speaker?
Well, I think the majority, or the vast majority, if not all Republicans, have signed on to the discharge petition. I don't know whether any Democrats have signed on to it. It's certainly the 25 that have proposed the bill, I would hope, would sign on to it. If they do, then the bill would automatically come from the floor. But I suspect that they're probably getting a lot of pressure from the Speaker saying, don't sign on to it. And before we went back to the districts, we voted on this second version of what they call the HEROES Act, which is anything but that. And again, it was bipartisan in opposition. 17 Democrats voted against it, so it wasn't even a serious attempt to do that. Listen, as I said, that bill could pass tomorrow, and I know she's putting pressure to make sure that the necessary number of Democrats don't sign the discharge petition. But if they do, the bill would be on the floor, almost immediately, based on the procedures of the House.
Do you guys have any chance at taking the House back? I mean, the legacy fake news, they're talking about, the Democrats could take the Senate, but nobody is talking about the House anymore, even though there's 34 districts that Democrats won in 2018 that Trump carried in 2016. He's going to carry those same districts again, as he's got a bigger vote base now, regardless of what happens in some of these other states. But is there any hope that the Republicans could flip enough of those seats? I think you need, 19 or something to get a majority? How many do you need?
Oh, yes. No, I believe, John, that we can absolutely win back the House. I think there are a number of seats out there that are in play. You look at what happened just before this general election with a special election there in California, or the seat that Mike Garcia is now in hasn't been held by a Republican since 1985. Mike got in there, worked hard, spectacular candidate, worked hard, raised money, did everything necessary, and won that seat. Won it in a place that was very, very challenging. And in spite of all the pundits saying, no, he's not going to win it, Mike won it. So I think that's a barometer of what we can do in this election cycle. And yes, I do believe that we can take back the majority in the House. I think as people are watching what's happening there and seeing things turn so bitterly partisan in the House, I think people want things to get done. And they want the job to be taken seriously. That is of the Speaker, and the Speaker's job is not just to be the leader of her party. The Speaker of the House is the Speaker of the House, just as it says, and that means all members. And that means when you have these processes in committee, it means involving the minority. John, she does not involve the minority in anything. When bills are drafted, no participation by the minority. When amendments come up, not a single one of those amendments are adopted. It's mindless. And then when it comes to committee work, I mean, the Republicans are on the outside looking in. So this is not what people want with their government, and that is at least for the minority to have a voice. Listen, I understand when the final passage votes come, but you see what's happening there. This is just in every way, shape, or form, 100% political, and that doesn't get us to where we need to be. People see the division in our country today. This just exacerbates the division. So I just think that people look at it and say, we can do better than that, and the Speaker has an obligation to make the House work for not just the majority, but also for the minority.
John Fredericks Radio Network, Trucking the Truth Across America. We're with Congressman Rob Wittman, Republicans, 1st District, Virginia. That's the Northern Neck through the Fredericksburg area, Stanton, etc. Congressman Wittman, let's get to Afghanistan. A little bit of a debate going on. The president saying, hey, I want to draw troops down further to about 2,500. Generals going bananas over it, saying we can't do it. A lot of people skeptical of the generals, like me, because I went out of these wars. Trump campaigned on it. But, there's a lot of people that make a lot of money, as you know, in the defense contracting business. So I'm always skeptical of the swamp monsters. But, Trump campaigned on it. He's campaigning on it again. What's that risk in drawing Afghanistan down to 2,500? A lot of people don't even know today why we're still there. Can you explain that?
Well, sure, John. I think the drawdown is a good thing. It has to be conditions based. So let's begin. Let's continue to draw down. Let's make sure too that we have plans in place and the necessary efforts in place so that if we see, and I guarantee you that in some places it will happen, if we see the Taliban allowing Al-Qaeda to reemerge, then we have the opportunity to be able to go in and make sure that capability does not in any way, shape, or form grow there. And then make sure, too, as you have these agreements between the Taliban and the Afghan government, is to make sure that those agreements are followed. Hold the Taliban accountable. Because the way things are in Afghanistan, listen, I've been there, well over a dozen times. Afghanistan is still a tribal nation. And the government in Kabul does have a difficult time in maintaining control in the far reaches of the country. It's just the nature of the country and the nature of the culture there, with it being a tribal culture. So I think you have to keep in mind those elements, look at what happens with the Taliban in those areas, make sure that they stay within the realm, that they are not allowing these elements of extremism that would create a risk or a threat to the United States reemerge. And as long as you can maintain it there, I think that that's the proper place to be. And making sure, too, as you draw down, assuring that as you have these agreements with the Taliban, that the agreements are followed. I think that's all very, very logical in making sure that you're able to do that. And, we are in a train, advise, and assist mission there now. I think we need to continue to do that. And listen, in some areas, the Afghan forces are very good. In other areas, not so much. And it is a challenge to get the entire country to where you can say there's no opportunity for these extremist elements to reemerge. The key is what do we do in those areas to pursue a counterterrorism strategy to say, if those elements of threat to the United States reemerge, what are we going to do to immediately take those things out, and what are we going to do to hold the Taliban accountable? I think that you can do both of those, and I think you can do that while drawing down our presence in Afghanistan.
All right. Well, look, I think you're spot on with that, and we have to continue to do something there to get our troops out because it's been a long time, right? I mean, when did we first send our troops in, right? 2001, right? So
2001, yes.
Yeah, 19 years later, we're still there. You know, when the president talks about these endless wars, this is exactly what he means. So I know, Congressman Wittman, that in your subcommittee, you're highly engaged in this. You've been to Afghanistan many times, and we appreciate that. I've only got a minute. Any final words at all on the House negotiations or anything that's got you riled up right now, sir?
Well, listen,
not that you ever get riled up.
Well, listen, I'm really concerned that we get something done before the election. I'm glad conversations are still going on, but I've traveled around the district and talked to multitudes of people, and they want us to get things done. So I am always optimistic, cautiously optimistic that things will happen. If the speaker would just follow what the members of the House want, both sides of the aisle, it could be done tomorrow.
John Fredericks Radio Network. Let me thank Rob Wittman for being with us, running from 1st District Republican. That's the Northern Neck and through the Stanton area and up through Fredericksburg, named after me. Rob Wittman, as always, sir, thanks for being with us. More information, go to whitman.house.gov, whitman.house.gov. Thanks, Rob. Thanks for being
John.
with us.